Hi, I'm Ken Allen, and I play Bobby in A Chorus Line. Pretty much was raised in Miami, Florida, South Florida. I was walking through my elementary school, and I was walking through the cafetorium, and there was a local studio having a tap class in there, and it was making a horrendous racket. It was really noisy and terrible, but I was really fascinated by it. And so I went home and told my mom that I wanted to try it, and I was in class a few weeks later. And that's it. I got teased a lot. But it was just I didn't really understand. I was so young, so I didn't really understand why they were teasing me. I didn't understand what was wrong with it. I really liked it, and I thought that was really cool, and I didn't give a shit what anybody else thought. So, so that was it. So I just kept doing it. My mom and dad and my whole family have always been tremendously supportive, and I am a lucky bastard. I really am. I'm very, very lucky for that, because that is not something that happens a lot. Essentially, there are a lot of things that Bobby and I have in common. I used to have garage recitals, just like Bobby. I remember always having some kind of Asian theme. I was probably a geisha at some point, and I just don't know I was. In fact, have you seen Memoirs of a Geisha? Okay, do you remember that dance she does in the light and everything? Yeah, I did that back in 1981. In fact, somebody owes me a check. I was also really strange. I was also just very unconventional. And people didn't know how to take me, and still don't, to a certain extent. And so we have a lot in common. You can wear your heart on your sleeve, but it just hurts. It hurts, and you don't want that all the time, for yourself. And so you just you develop these defense things. Mine would probably be humor, like Bobby. This is how I found out that I got the show. And I was sitting on my couch, and I thought I had done a terrible job at the callback. And casting director called me, and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing, Ken?" And I'm like, "I'm okay." I felt like I didn't really do a great job. She's like, "Well, would it make you feel better if I told you that you got the role of Bobby in A Chorus Line?" Yeah, I think that would do it. That would do it. I'm like, "Well, that's what I'm doing." I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." Hang up. And I just went back to my documentary. And then I tried to call my mom, because of course my mom is the first person on the list. You can't call anybody else, you have to call mom. So I tried to call mom, and she wasn't picking up her phone, and I couldn't get a hold of her. So I had to wait for an hour and a half to tell anyone on this planet, because mom had to be the first person to know. The hardest thing about this business, I think I'd have to say the business. Being on stage and getting the job, that is the cream. That is the gravy. That's the fun part. Getting up and actually doing the show. It's the getting the show, and the making sure that you are always working. And if you're not working, then what are you doing? And supplementing your income. And it's all about the business. Those things are very difficult for me. Which is why, I'm going to get a husband who will take care of all of that, hopefully. It's also hard for me to wind down after a show, especially this show. You're standing there doing a kick line until the lights come down, and it's kick line forever and ever and ever. It's genius, and the audience is roaring. How do you chill out after that? That's really hard. It's kind of a challenge to do. It's very moving. I think my favorite thing about playing him actually is the fact that he actually makes a step. There's a little bit of progress. There's a little bit of coming to an understanding with him at the end of the show. He actually he learns something. And through the audition, through his friend Sheila, and that's one of the things that I love about it, because that's something that I would like to do myself. I would like to be okay, for once, just being me, just being who I am, and not feeling like I have to entertain, all the time especially when I may not be feeling good. I might be feeling hurt, and not to disguise it with humor. I feel like that's probably my favorite part of his whole thing. It's the fact that he actually shows a little bit of who he is.